Go ahead and get started in a little minute. This one is going to be a very, very powerful conversation, man. Give it a little while and I'm going to go ahead and get started. I actually want to... Peace, family. This is Satril coming at you guys with another powerful, powerful message. This is the true Duke. This magic is in me, not on me. Today, man, I want to talk to you guys about something that Spirit placed on my heart tonight, right? I want to talk about spiritual vessels. And I don't want to just talk about one specific kind of spiritual vessel. I want to talk about a few examples of what a spiritual vessel is and what a spiritual vessel represents. You get what I'm saying? I want to talk about a few examples of what a spiritual vessel represents. And I want you guys to like this video, share this video, comment on this video. I'm really trying to get out there in the algorithm, man. So y'all go ahead and share this video, share this live stream. And when you guys watch the playback, comment, like, share, subscribe, all of that good shit. You know what I'm saying? All of those good things. 222, I say. And I appreciate y'all, man. I've reached 525 subscribers, man. So I appreciate everybody who subscribes to my channel, who comments, who likes, who shares, who watches my content. Even if you watch it for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. I appreciate you and I am grateful. I show gratitude to all of my supporters. I show gratitude to all of my supporters, man. So today, like I said, man, I want to talk about spiritual vessels, right? Whether that be statues, whether that be a witch's cauldron, whether that be an nganga, a mikisi, inkisi, whether that be, you know what I'm saying? Peace. Whether that be, let me think, an nganga, like, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate you. I appreciate y'all for showing up, man. Appreciate y'all for showing up. Like I said, there are a plethora of examples of, yeah, let me go ahead and cut this off because I'm not trying to get distracted. But yeah, there are a plethora of examples of spiritual vessels. You get what I'm saying? And I specifically want to talk about African traditions or African spirituality, but these teachings come from an occultist mindset. You get what I'm saying? An occultist type of mindset or mentality, right? So the first vessel that I feel as though that needs to be talked about, and it is the most important vessel that a lot of us forget that we still have to take care of, right? And that is your body. Your body is the first vessel that you come here, that you incarnate into this physical reality. Now let's think about a vessel, right? There are a plethora of things that we call vessels as humans, right? We call yachts, large boats, even cars are considered vessels. What are they vessels of? Vessels of transportation. You're going on a journey. You get what I'm saying? You're going on a journey. And see, there's one thing to have knowledge, but there's another thing to have wisdom, right? And on this journey that we consider our lives, we have to have not only knowledge, but we have to have wisdom. You get what I'm saying? Now, We are what you would call three-dimensional beings, but I want to talk about two of those dimensions, right? You have your spirit body and you have your physical body. And anybody who knows and studies the occult or spirituality, right? You understand that you chose to be in this physical vessel, in this physical body. And this is information that we, quote unquote, forget when we come down here and we incarnate and we are born into these bodies, into these vessels. You understand what I'm saying? So throughout our journey, throughout our lives, we forget that we have to take care of these vessels. See, we kind of do it, it's done for us as children. But as we get older, it's like through the trauma and through the negative experiences that we have, if we have any of those, some of us are just negligent. Some of us just neglect ourselves, right? This is by way of eating, by way of what you decide to entertain, the music you decide to listen to. All of these things factor in. So you have to take care of your spiritual body and your physical body, right? We have to focus on, of course, our physical health and hygiene, but our spiritual health and hygiene. And there are a plethora of ways that we neglect ourselves. A lot of us have addictions that we shouldn't have. A lot of us are allowing people to giving access to people we shouldn't have. Sleeping with people we shouldn't be sleeping with. You understand what I'm saying? Being in environments that we know that we should not be in. So these are ways and these are things that we do as quote unquote humans, spiritual beings having human experiences. These are the things that we do that are negligent of both physical hygiene as well as spiritual hygiene. And it's the same thing with an altar, because these vessels, they need to be housed in a temple and on your altar. And again, same concept. We take care of that altar more than we take care of our bodies, our physical bodies. We take care of the altar. We go to the altar before we go within. And these things, these concepts that we've come up with throughout centuries and centuries, because this is ancient knowledge, right? Ancient science, ancient wisdom, right? Somewhere down the line, again, we forget that these things are physical representations of what's within. You understand what I'm saying? These are just physical representations that we can see with our eyes of what's within. You understand what I'm saying? Your spiritual hygiene. And it's funny because, we get on the internet and we, whether it be YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever the case may be, Facebook, and we talk about these different products and these different things that people sell, right? On Etsy and Amazon and in the stores, and then they look, mom and pop occult stores and spiritual shops and things of that nature, right? We truly have to understand that, again, We have to focus on the physical. Yes, we have to take care of our physical bodies. That's eating the right way, fasting when necessary, moving when necessary, moving that stagnant energy. You get what I'm saying? But we also have to make sure that we're up on our spiritual hygiene as well. We talk about Florida water. We talk about cascarilla. We talk about sage and Palo Santo and dragon's blood. We talk about spiritual washing. You know, we talk about all of these things. And I would even go as far as to say, okay, let's speak about energy healing, which is something that I'm going to be actually speaking more about. I'm going to actually be speaking more about energy healing, whether that be Reiki, Qigong, whatever the case may be. All of these things factor in because it's nothing but an energetic frequency of energy that needs to be moved around. Even the foods that we consume, it vibrates at a certain frequency when we consume it. And I'm being careful with how I convey this message. I want to be extremely careful about how I convey this message, right? Because these are things that's been placed on my spirit for a while now. And I say we because this is something that I had to be held accountable by my spirit team, by my spirit council. It's okay to do all of the spiritual work. It's okay to do all of the you know what I'm saying? You know, meditating with your spirits and speaking with your spirits and your ancestors and giving the offerings and doing the work and all of those things, right? But you have to take care of your physical and your spiritual body. It is just that simple. My spirit council had to hold me accountable to this. You know, even I had to be held accountable to this. Because this is your vessel. This is your first spiritual vessel. First and foremost. This is your first spiritual vessel, and this has to be taken care of. Even going as far as how you adorn your vessel, how you dress your vessel. The different types of jewelry, the different type of trinkets and talismans and charms. All of those things factor in. The different type of clothes that you wear. All of these things factor in. All of these things factor in. You understand? All of these things, they definitely factor in when it comes to how well and how attentive you are to this vessel. You know, from the different markings, as you guys see, I have tattoos and everything. Both of my tattoos, they mean something. And of course, if anybody who knows what these tattoos mean. You know? And even down to and I want to speak about your natal chart as well as your human design. Those two things factor in this as well. Your natal chart and your human design. You guys can do your own research on your human design. It's pretty much a combination of your natal chart, you know what I'm saying, meaning your astrology, your life path, your, the chakra system, all of those things it's a combination of all of those things, right? And of course you have your natal chart. I believe that those two things are important, right? I believe that those two things are important when we talk about your spirit body, especially your human design. Knowing those two things alone will help you understand, like, for example, right? I'm a Cancer moon. I'm a Virgo sun, Cancer moon, right? So grounding is extremely important for me. This is the best example that I can get by giving you guys my own personal experience. Grounding is extremely important. Hydration is extremely important, meaning getting in some type of water or consuming some type of water. And grounding, as whether that be in a spiritual bath or out in nature. So these are the things that you have to think about. These are the things that you have to look at, right? These are the things that you have to look into, that you have to pay attention to. And this is just with the first vessel alone, before we even get to the statues and the pots and the cauldrons and the gangans and all of that. You know what I'm saying? All of that is fine. Trust me, I'm working with it myself on a personal level. I won't speak too much on that, but on a personal level. But I had to come here first. I had to go within first and understand this first. Why I look the way that I look through your ancestry and who you represent spiritually. Why did I choose to come here in the body that I chose to come here in? All of these things factor in. All of these things, you have to think about these things on a deeper level. We talk about vanity. Everybody want to look a certain way. Everybody want to get the veneers. You know, you got cats going to go get their hairline, you know what I'm saying? Going to Turkey and getting a little hairline shit. You know what I'm talking about? You know, you got the Ozempic, people doing the Ozempic and the like, and you got the BBLs and all that, you know? But people don't think about the fact that, or question spirit or God, the Most High. Why did I incarnate into the body I incarnated in? Why did I come here looking the way that I look? For example, right, my entire life, I'm 27, by the way, right? But I'm pretty sure when you look at me, you see the beard. I even got a little bit of gray in my beard, right? Probably can't see it on camera, but I got a little bit of gray in my beard. My entire life, people have thought that I was older than what I actually am. Now, granted, I am 6 foot something, but people have always thought that I was older than what I am. Right? So now I'm looking at age 27, I'm graying. And at first I was upset about it. I'm going to be honest with you. I was mad as hell because it's like, why am I graying at such a young age? Right? But I had to speak to my higher self. And one thing that Spirit told me was that you had to come here looking as an elder. You had to come here with more of a mature energy about you so that your message can carry. You had to come here looking like an elder so that your message can carry. I even got a little bit of gray. You know, you can't really see it, but there's gray in the crown of my head. You know, I do my best to try to hide it, but it's definitely there. And see, Spirit don't even want me to talk too much about that. You know, Spirit don't even want me to talk too much about that. My inner child don't even want me to talk too much about that. You know what I'm saying? But that is an example of the message that I'm trying to convey. We sit up here and we get all of these cosmetics done, and you know what I'm saying, we focus so much about how we look as far as vanity goes, but we don't question why we even look the way that we look in the first place spiritually. I look like an ancestor. I look like an elder. I'm a representation of my ancestors. So how I conduct myself, how I move, how I carry myself. Man, it's almost 2 o'clock in the morning and y'all see how I'm dressed. I could have just came on here looking any kind of way. I'm fully dressed. I'm talking about dappered down. You know what I'm talking about? I could have came on here looking any kind of way. But Spirit told me, like, man, you can't get on any. Now, my inner child told me. My inner child didn't even want me to get on here looking no any kind of way. I'm talking about I went in there, lined my beard up, shaved and everything. You know? Because how I present myself matters to me. Because I understand on a deeper level what's being conveyed. All of these things make, you know, a lot of sense when you look in the mirror and you ask these questions. You know what I'm saying? And I haven't even moved on to the next topic. And I've covered just enough when it comes to your spirit body alone. And how important your spiritual and physical, your spiritual and physical. Because see, your spirit body, your soul, in Ifa, they call it your Ori. And deeper than that, they call your soul your Ilede, right? They call your soul your Ilede. Your crown is your Ori. Your soul is your Ilede, right? Your Ori, your Ilede, has to have a vessel. Has to have a vessel. So your spirit, your soul, came here incarnated into this physical vessel. And y'all see me, man. I'm, you know, again, I'm beautifully made. Beautifully made. I'm a representation of my ancestors. I am beautifully made. Beautifully crafted by Obatala, Odedamare, by my ancestors. You understand what I'm saying? Even down to how you speak about your body. Man, I'm about 300 pounds, man. I promise you I don't look it, but I'm about a solid 300 pounds. And I used to be extremely insecure about my body. Even now today, I still have my days where it's like, man, I don't really like how I'm looking. But then my inner child comes out, man, hey, listen, bro. I don't know what you on right now, but you are beautiful, man. You look amazing. My inner child, he checked me sometimes, you know? He checked me every now and then. You know what I'm talking about? So even down to the way that you speak about your physical body matters. Because the physical matters just as much as the spiritual. Things happen in the spiritual first, but the physical is just, there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance. Things matter in the physical just as much as they matter in the spiritual, in the astral. You understand what I'm saying? So the way that you speak about your physical body, it matters. It definitely matters. And I hear people all the time speak terrible about their bodies, man, especially coming from women. Especially coming from women. You see it online all the time, you know, and what you speak is what you reflect. What you speak is what you reflect. If that's how you speak about yourself, that is what's going to be reflected. You get what I'm saying? So that factors in wholeheartedly. I feel as though that factors in, right? So now that we covered that your physical body, your first vessel is your physical body, that's your soul, your spirit needed to incarnate into, again, we are spiritual beings having human experiences. Your spirit, your soul needed a vessel to go on this journey. And I'm going to take it even further. Knowing who you are on a soul level, who do you represent? We talk about these deities all day long. We can talk about Ifa, we can talk about voodoo, we can talk about Hindu, we can talk about the Egypt pantheon, but who are you? What deity, what spirit, what energy did your soul choose to come here as? And you guys heard me speak about your inner child. Your inner child is also connected to your soul as well. This is why inner child healing, knowing your inner child, is so important. All of these things factor in, man. All of these things factor in, because we're talking about the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And I'm going to go deeper into that as well, right? So now that we covered that and how important it is to understand that concept, let's talk about these statues that we love so much, right? Let's talk about these statues that we love so much, whether that be, again, whether that be the Orisha, whether that be the Loa, whether that be Hindu, whether that be the Egyptian pantheon. People have Egyptian gods on their altars. People have Hindu gods on their altars. People have Loa on their altars, Orisha on their altars, right? Those are not just statues. When you create something, I'm going to go as far as to say, even with Catholicism, even with Christianity, people have statues of Jesus, right? These are not just statues. When you create something in the likeness of something or somebody, it is a representation of that spirit, right? Why do you think that a lot of individuals throughout history, they had statues made of themselves? They were deifying themselves. They were deifying themselves. Correct me if I'm wrong. Their spirit is attached to them, to that individual. There are people who have been unalived throughout history. There are people who have been unalived throughout history, right? And their story meant so much to that community or to that region, they created a statue of their likeness, right? And if I'm not mistaken, there's a story in France. I don't really know too deep about the story, but I remember watching it somewhere, seeing it somewhere where people would go and actually kiss this particular individual. I forgot what they called it, you know? I think it's a man or a woman or whatever the case may be, but their story was so inspirational that they created this statue in that person's likeness, right? And people have stated that in that area, that individual's spirit is still roaming around. That individual spirit, you can still feel that or even see an effigy of that, you know what I'm saying, of that particular individual. You can still see that person roaming around, that person's spirit or ghost or whatever case, whatever you want to call it, whatever name you want to put on it, right? So when we talk about these spiritual systems and we talk about these statues, my point is that we can't look at these statues as just statues, man. They're not just pretty statues that you place on your altar. And I don't care what system you call yourself practicing, whether you're a religion, whether it's Catholicism, Christianity, whether it's Ifa, Voodoo, Hindu, whatever the case may be. I don't care if you got Buddha on your altar. That is a spirit. It is just that simple. I don't care if you have Buddha on your altar. You dig what I'm saying? Like I'm laughing, but I'm serious. that is an example of a spirit. Now, there is, and I don't want to dive too deep into this because this concept is such a powerful, they have their secrets, right? They have what you call inkisis and minkisis, right? Minkisis meaning plural of those statues, right? And if you look this up, they literally are wooden statues with nails in them, right? Now, an inkisi is basically what a healer or spiritual chief would utilize to heal or to even cause any type of illness or harm to a particular target, right? But this is the thing. There is a certain spirit that is in that particular wooden statue. And that's their secret. There is a specific spirit that is in that wooden statue. You got ones that can heal and you got ones that can hunt, right? So again, my point that I'm making, I'm bringing this up because again, whether you have Greek gods, Egyptians, Orisha, Loa, whoever, right? Say for example, you have Zeus. Say for example, you have a statue of Zeus. This would be considered a spiritual vessel for that spirit. Now, you would light candles for him. You would set out some wine, some grapes, some fruit, whatever the case may be. You get what I'm saying? And you would work with that vessel. You would work with that statue the same way that you would go to their altar place or whatever the case may be, right? You would work with that statue. You would connect with that energy of Zeus. Or Hecate. Let's talk about Hecate, right? Again, same concept. You would leave her out. Whatever offerings, whether it be red wine, whether it be whatever the case may be. These are all considered spiritual vessels. These are all considered spiritual vessels that you work with, that you connect with. Again, as within, so without. There is something about that statue that you connect with from within first. Right? Whether that be masculine or feminine, it's all about energy at the end of the day. It's an energy. It's an energy. You get what I'm saying? So when you talk about spiritual vessels, I feel as though that this is a huge or vital, important example of what a spiritual vessel would consist of. This is one of them, right? This is one of them. And I feel as though that, again, we can have 100 statues in our houses, in our temples. A 100 statues in our temples, right? In our houses. And you still would have to understand that, again, going back to my first example, take care of yourself first, then you take care of your spiritual vessels. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm gonna go as far as to even say this. When you look at it from an inner child type of childlike type of mindset, you understand why working with these vessels are so important. Matter of fact, there's a movie called I believe it's called Indian in the Cupboard or something like that. It's about a little boy. He found a little Indian toy, and his parents they gave him like a little a little house or whatever had a certain key to it. You know, that is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. So these statues, man, they are not just statues. And as many people try to tell you that, oh, that's just a statue. It is not just a statue, man. It is not just a statue. I promise you, it is not just a statue. I promise you. I've had firsthand experiences with statues. Moving certain places, wanting to be moved certain places, wanting certain offerings. And I can go deeper than that, but man, y'all would have to go ahead, shameless plug, but y'all would have to go ahead and get that spiritual coaching, man. Y'all would have to come and get this spiritual coaching. I can go so much deeper with that, but y'all would have to come and get this spiritual coaching because it's so tailored to who you are and who you represent and your taboos and things of that nature. Like it's such a deep concept, man, and it's such a personalized concept. So y'all would have to get some type of coaching from me, man, to be able to go deeper with that concept, you know. And to move on and continue the conversation, right? I want to talk about dolls. This is another concept of what a spiritual vessel is. Now, as you guys know, or if you don't know, now you know, I actually work with voodoo dolls. In other practices and other cultures, you have spirit dolls. Those are two different things. Somewhat the same concept, but those are two different things. Again, this is a piggyback of what I was speaking about, the Inkisi or Minkisi, right? And I've already made videos about my voodoo dolls. This is a Bija. Not gonna tell you what spirit is in this doll, but there is not just my spirit, but the deity that I represent. You get what I'm saying? And I don't care about showing this. Because if you try to attack me, I promise you, you see my boy, he got his chain on, you know what I'm talking about? My boy got his chain on, you know? This is my little crash out, man. Try me if you want to. This is my crash out. I'm telling you. You know what I'm saying? Again, certain herbs and charms and talismans go inside of this doll. This is also what you call a spiritual vessel. Again, y'all do y'all research on this, man. Y'all do y'all research on these concepts. And let me make a disclaimer as well. If you are not black, if you are not African, please don't try to play with this stuff. If you don't have any type of African ancestry, any type of black ancestry, please don't try to play with our culture. Hoodoo is a closed practice. Ifa, voodoo, all of these things are closed practices. So definitely wanted to put that out there, you know. But yeah, man, I love my dolls, man. I love my dolls, man. But yeah, this is my little crash out, you know. But like I said, man, certain herbs go into these dolls, right? People call them poppets. People call them voodoo dolls, hoodoo dolls, whatever you want to call them, right? Now, with these particular dolls, now they are spiritual vessels, but they are also, again, living spirits. Now, you can do this, and I have to be extremely careful about how I convey this as well, right? You can do this for yourself for protection, for bringing in money, for healing. You understand what I'm saying? And I've done all of those things. I've healed, I've protected, and I've also brought in money for myself with these dolls, right? And, excuse me, these dolls have to be fed, and that spirit has to be woken up. And you have to make sure that your energy, if this is for yourself or for a client or for a specific person, right? Your energy or their energy is connected to this doll. These are my locks. These are my locks. As you can see, these are my actual locks. You know? And again, I'm comfortable telling you guys this because I promise you, I'm not worried about nobody attacking anything I got going on. You know what I'm saying? And I'm laughing because I know what my work can do, you know. But yeah. Now, spirit dolls, right? I'm gonna talk about spirit dolls. Again, they're a little bit different, right? Spirit dolls are basically dolls that are connected to a specific deity, whether that be Orisha. They have Oshun dolls, they have Shango dolls, they have Yemeya dolls, right? Beautiful, beautifully crafted dolls. Don't get me wrong, they are beautifully crafted dolls, you know, but they are a little bit different than my voodoo dolls. And some people call them puppets again, you know. Essentially it's the same thing though. Essentially it's the same concept to a certain degree, to a certain extent. So that would be considered a spiritual vessel as well, right? Again, all of these beautiful concepts and practices that come out of our culture and that come from our people. All of these things are powerful. All of these things are powerful. Especially when you know the science behind it, the wisdom and the knowledge behind it, the stories behind it. My ancestors utilized these dolls during slavery, during those times to where we were impoverished or whatever the case may be, right? When their kids were sick and they, you know, no doctors could figure out what illnesses they had, you know? And let's go even deeper. When master would come and take, you know what I'm saying, take your daughter or take your son, it comes to a point to where, man, you want that to come to an end, you know? And that's where this comes into play. When you know the history of these things, you know, this is one of my spiritual vessels. And I'm showing my boy off because he want to be showed off. He want to be put on camera. You know, he wants y'all to see his chain. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you know, these are also considered spiritual vessels. I take care of these. I feed these. I'm not going to tell you what I do and how I do it, but I take care of them. I feed them. I speak to them. They not just sitting around. I connect with them because these are my babies. These are aspects of me. Just like you wouldn't neglect your child, don't neglect this. Because it is an aspect of who you are. You get what I'm saying? And if you make one for a client, and again, shameless plug, if you guys are interested in me making a voodoo doll for you and speaking to you about a voodoo doll, please, you know, feel free to DM me or email me. I'll link my social and email and everything at the end of this video, you know. But yeah, these things are for healing. Now, don't get me wrong, you can do some left hand work as well, but we're not talking about that. We're not speaking about that. We're not speaking about that. We're talking about the work that you can do to heal and to protect. If I make a doll for an individual, I would let that individual know, hey, listen, I'm making you this voodoo doll. I want you to personalize it. I want you to put your hair, nails, whatever whatever you decide to put a place in it, whatever herbs, I'll place some herbs in there, but you can add your own herbs, your own crystals, whatever the case may be. You can dress it up however you want to, right? But don't just have it laying around. Don't just neglect it because it's not gonna have any more power. It's not gonna have any more power, you know? Because you neglected it. You neglected the vessel that you were given. Or if you make one yourself, you neglected your own vessel. You know what I'm saying? So I also want to segue into something else, right? And this is going to be the last example that I give. And even with this, I don't want to speak too much. And if you guys haven't noticed, all of these things have connection. Again, from let's run it back, from your physical body to the statues that we have on our altars. You get what I'm saying? To the spirit dolls or voodoo dolls, whatever you want to call them, right? All of these things have, and also in Kisis as well, right? All of these things are spiritual vessels, but it starts here first. I can't stress that enough. It starts here first. Then we move on to the things that we do on an outer level. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, that's true. Ground zero, you're absolutely right. If you do it, if it is unjustified, I'm actually glad. Now, this is a comment that I'm gonna yeah, this is a comment. Yeah, I'm looking at y'all comments right now. Looking at y'all comments right now. And that comment I actually want to entertain. When you do left hand work or baneful magic or whatever case may be, right? If it is not justified, like I said, these dolls and any type of, whether it be even a mojo bag, these things were made to protect, to heal, but they were also made for justice work as well. You have people in certain communities, whether that be black communities, Spanish communities, kids have been taken, have been essayed, unalived. In the justice system, you can never depend on the justice system. So you know what we depend on? We depend on our magic. Now, that'll be justified. But if you're throwing work or creating these dolls to attack somebody unwarranted, it is definitely going to come to you tenfold. That karma is going to hit you like a semi truck, I promise you, every single time. Especially if that person has a certain type of protection on them. Especially if that person has a certain type of protection on them. You get what I'm saying? Especially if that person has a certain type of protection on them, right? So I definitely wanted to speak on that. I'm actually glad that I saw that comment because I have to make that very, very clear, right? But I want to move on to something else, right? Let's talk about spiritual pots and gangas or cauldrons, whatever name you want to. Well, let me not say that. Let me not say that. So I say I have to be extremely careful about how I convey this message, right? A spiritual pot, a witch's pot, or a witch's cauldron, and an nganga, they are three different things. Spiritual pot or a witch's pot, it is for individuals who practice quote unquote witchcraft, or individuals who practice quote unquote Celtic magic, or you know what I'm saying? Certain types of cultures and certain types of, you guys get what I'm saying, right? A cauldron is these pots, right? Or these cauldrons are, again, physical representations of from what's going on within. And this is something that Brother Panic talked about. A pot or cauldron is nothing but a representation of the subconscious mind. So when you create a pot, when you have a pot, you're talking about a universe. You're talking about a universe of power. It is a spiritual universe within itself. Right? And see, Spirit, you see how my voice just cracked? Spirit don't even want me to go too deep with that, because even with that, there's a deep science with that. Especially when you start talking about Orisha or Lawa and Ngangas on an African tip. When you start talking about that, that's why I say there's a difference between a witch's pot and an Nganga. Those are two different things, two different cultures, two different practices. But it's the same concept. It's just a physical representation of your subconscious mind. Because I can consecrate, bless, and consecrate an Ogun pot. But if that individual that I'm blessing and consecrating that pot for, if they haven't done the shadow work necessary, that pot isn't necessarily going to have any power. Or it's not going to have enough ashe or power that it needs. Because you haven't done the shadow work necessary. Shadow work is the work that you need to do for your shadow self, hence your subconscious mind. Right? And shadow work with this practice, with all of this knowledge and wisdom, you know, it needs to be done first and foremost before any of this is even done. You understand what I'm saying? So if I bless a pot for Ogun, or salute a pot for Zerabanda, or whatever the case may be, right? This spiritual vessel has to be worked. It has to be, you know what I'm saying? Every single day you have to be connecting with that pot. Every single day you have to be connecting with that vessel. It is a strict and disciplined type of practice. And I swear I want to go so deeper. I want to go so much more deeper with that. But Spirit is telling me, like, there's only so much that I can even say for real. You know? Peace, peace. Lovely Daniels, please, peace, peace. It's only so much that I can even say when it comes to just on an African. Like I said, it's two different practices, man. You have two different cultures. And I'm pretty sure that there's somebody who can speak more about a witch's pot or a witch's cauldron better than I could, because that's their culture. But I can tell you, I can speak all day long when it comes to the Orisha, the Loa, and, you know, a little bit of Palo. Because I understand that my voodoo doll in an Nkisi, in a cauldron or a pot, they're pretty much all the same thing. You work them all differently, but they're all pretty much the same thing. They all represent one or two or more spirits can go into these vessels. You understand what I'm saying? With an Nganga, multiple spirits can go into that Nganga. And even with that, I feel like I'm saying too much. You know what I'm saying? And how you work that pot and how you connect with that pot is extremely important. Because I'm going to tell you again, you neglect these things, there will be consequences. Even with something like my voodoo doll, because there's so much power in something like a voodoo doll. People sleep on this, man. I'm telling y'all, this is no different than a pot. If you neglect these things, just like if you neglect your body, your health is going to trash. So if you neglect that doll or that pot, what do you think is going to happen spiritually? You understand what I'm saying? So again, man, I wanted to get on here and give you guys this message, and I pray that I was able to convey this message the way that I was supposed to and the way that I plan to. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and get off here because before I end up speaking too much about certain things, because I know how deep I can go with these things. I can go so much deeper with each one of these examples. I can go so much deeper with this. But again, man, y'all go ahead, like this video, share this video, comment, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. You know, I really genuinely want to get out there in the algorithm, because I'm gonna actually be back on here a lot more on YouTube. I haven't been on YouTube in a while. I haven't gone live in a minute. It's been a minute. I've been mainly on TikTok, and you guys can find me on TikTok and Instagram as well at House of the Adept. Instagram and TikTok as well at House of the Adept. You know what I'm saying? And again, if you guys need any of my spiritual services, whether that be spiritual coaching, whether that be, you know, divination, because I still do divination. I also want to make that very, very clear. I still do divination. And I also do spiritual work as well. So you guys are absolutely free to hit me up on TikTok, DM me on Instagram, whatever the case may be, for any of those services. For any of those services, we can do a consultation, and we can actually get down to what's needed and what you guys are looking for, you know? So again, man, I pray that I was able to convey this message that Spirit placed on me tonight, because I wasn't even planning on coming on here tonight, but I'm so glad that I did. So glad that I did, you know? So again, this is the true Duke. This magic is in me, not on me. Love.